The meeting room buzzed with quiet conversations in dozens of alien languages. Alex adjusted his collar and tried not to stare at the strange beings around him. 3 months had passed since humans first joined the Galactic Council, and he still felt like an outsider looking in. Beth sat beside him, her tablet displaying careful notes about each species present. She had spent weeks preparing for this agricultural planning session. The council had been generous, offering humanity a chance to help develop new farming worlds. It seemed like the perfect opportunity for their peaceful species. Elder Grove's massive trunk creaked as the ancient tree being shifted position. His bark was covered in intricate patterns that glowed softly in the dim light. The Botanari had been the first to welcome humans, seeing them as kindred spirits who appreciated growing things. The soil composition on Verdania shows excellent potential. Grove's voice rustled like wind through leaves. We believe your species will find it most suitable for settlement. Wren's blue-scaled head bobbed in agreement. The aquatic hydrolian had been instrumental in classifying humans as Class C herbivorous bipeds. Their peaceful nature and love of water worlds made them natural allies for what they assumed was another gentle species. The atmospheric pressure is within acceptable ranges, Wren added, his gills fluttering slightly. No dangerous predators, no hostile weather patterns. A perfect world for a developing civilization. Alex nodded politely, though something in the description bothered him. Perfect worlds made him nervous. In his experience, there was always a catch. His military training had taught him that environments without challenges often hid bigger problems. Quill's compound eyes reflected the room's light as the insectoid representative consulted the hive mind's shared knowledge. The collective agrees. Your species requires protection while you develop proper defensive capabilities. Verdania offers this safety. Beth smiled warmly at the assembled beings. We appreciate your concern for our well-being. Earth's environment taught us to be adaptable, though I suppose any world would seem easier after surviving ice ages and volcanic periods. The casual comment caused a brief silence. Several species exchanged glances. Ice ages were typically survival events that only the hardiest species endured. Ice ages. Elder Grove's branches rustled with concern. Your homeworld experienced multiple extinction events. Oh yes, Alex replied easily. Humans have always been good at adapting. We lived through climate changes that wiped out most other species, made us pretty good at reading environments and surviving in harsh conditions. Wren's gills closed briefly, a sign of distress among his people. Your species survived multiple extinction events? How did you manage such a feat? Beth pulled up images of early human settlements on her tablet. Persistence mostly. Our ancestors were excellent at tracking prey across long distances. They could follow animals for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. Very efficient hunting method. The word hunting seemed to echo strangely in the quiet room. Several species had no direct translation for the concept, having evolved as pure herbivores or filter feeders. Tracking prey? Quill's antennae twitched nervously. You mean following other creatures? For food, yes, Alex explained matter-of-factly. Humans are omnivores. We can eat plants, but we also need protein from other animals. Our ancestors were some of the best hunters on Earth. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Elder Grove's glowing patterns dimmed noticeably. The Botanari had never encountered a species that deliberately killed other living beings for sustenance. You consume other creatures? Wren's voice was barely a whisper. His people sustained themselves on filtered nutrients from their ocean worlds. Well, yes, Beth said, noticing the growing tension, though we've developed agriculture and livestock farming now. Much more efficient than hunting wild animals. We even learned to domesticate some predator species. Predator species. Elder Grove's voice carried a note of horror. You keep dangerous creatures as companions? Alex realized they might have said too much. The cultural briefings had emphasized presenting humanity as peaceful and non-threatening. But it was hard to explain human civilization without mentioning the animals they'd lived alongside for thousands of years. Dogs and cats mostly, he said carefully. They're not really dangerous anymore. We bred them to be friendly companions, though they still have their hunting instincts. Quill's wings buzzed anxiously. You modified predator species to serve your needs? How did you accomplish this without being killed? Time and patience, Beth answered, and understanding how pack animals think. Humans are naturally good at reading body language and predicting behavior. It's how our ancestors survived. The implications of her words settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Species that could read and predict behavior were typically predators themselves. The ability to domesticate other predators suggested capabilities that went far beyond simple intelligence. Perhaps, Elder Grove said slowly, we should revisit your species classification. Some of these traits suggest a more complex evolutionary background than we initially assessed. Alex felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. The careful diplomatic work of the past 3 months was unraveling because of casual conversation about human history. They had tried so hard to appear harmless and civilized. Humans are peaceful, he said quickly. We've moved beyond our primitive past. Our interest in agriculture and cooperation brought us to the stars. Of course, Wren agreed, though his tone had changed. Perhaps we should arrange for additional cultural exchanges. Better understanding would benefit all parties. The meeting concluded with polite formalities, but Alex could feel the shift in atmosphere. The easy acceptance they'd enjoyed was gone, replaced by careful politeness and measuring glances. As they walked back to their quarters, Beth shook her head sadly. We tried so hard to make a good impression. Maybe we should have been more honest from the beginning. Maybe, Alex replied, watching a group of Badanari diplomats whisper urgently among themselves. But I'm not sure they would have welcomed us at all if they'd known the truth about human nature. Neither of them noticed the small recording devices that had been carefully monitoring their conversations. The Galactic Council took security seriously, and every species was studied far more thoroughly than they realized. In a secure facility deep within the station, researchers were already analyzing the humans' casual revelations about persistence hunting, predator domestication, and environmental adaptation. What they were discovering would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about their newest members. The peaceful agricultural assignment to Verdania suddenly seemed less like a generous gift and more like a careful test. The council needed to understand exactly what they had invited into their civilized community. The screaming started at dawn. Sam rolled out of his sleeping bag and grabbed his boots in one smooth motion. 40 years of living in dangerous places had taught him to react fast when something was wrong. The camp around him erupted into chaos as beings of various species stumbled from their shelters in confusion. Dr. Reed was already moving, her medical bag in hand as she rushed toward the source of the commotion. Her movements were precise and controlled, the kind of calm efficiency that came from treating wounded soldiers under fire. What is that sound? Trill's fur stood on end as the small mammalian supervisor clutched his communication device with shaking paws. The Falori were a peaceful species, more comfortable with mathematics than mayhem. Moss swayed anxiously, his root system partially extended as the Badanari tried to sense vibrations through the ground. Something large approaches. Multiple somethings. The earth trembles with their movement. Sam was already at the camp's perimeter, studying the torn fence and scattered equipment. His trained eyes read the destruction like a book. Deep claw marks scored the metal posts. Something with serious weapons had come through here. Everybody stay calm, he called out, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed in crisis situations. Trill, get on the comm and contact the station. Tell them we have a predator breach. Predator breach? Trill's voice cracked with terror. The concept was almost impossible for his species to process. What do you mean, predator breach? Another scream echoed from the forest, closer this time. Dr. Reed appeared at Sam's shoulder, her medical training making her surprisingly comfortable with violence and its aftermath. Multiple contacts, she reported, pointing to tracks in the soft soil. Large, probably pack hunters based on the coordination of the approach. The fence was hit from 3 different angles simultaneously. Sam nodded grimly. The attack pattern was familiar from his park ranger days, when he'd dealt with everything from bears to mountain lions. This had the hallmarks of intelligent pack predators testing defenses. How do you know these things? Moss asked in wonder and horror. His species had never developed the ability to read signs of danger because they'd never needed to. Experience, Sam replied simply, following the tracks toward the tree line. On Earth, you learn to read what animals are thinking or you don't survive long in the wilderness. Trill finally managed to contact the orbital station, his paws shaking as he transmitted their emergency signal. The response was immediate but not helpful. They say a rescue team was dispatched to Grid 7. He reported miserably. That team stopped responding 3 hours ago. Stopped responding? Dr. Reed's expression hardened. She'd seen what happened when predators caught unprepared prey. Sam, We need to assume the worst. Already am, Sam replied, studying broken branches and disturbed vegetation. Whatever's out there took down a professional survey team. We're dealing with apex predators, probably 12 feet tall based on these claw marks. The casual way he analyzed the threat amazed and terrified the alien observers. While they stood paralyzed by concepts they'd never encountered, the humans moved with practiced efficiency. We need to establish a defensive perimeter, Sam continued, gathering scattered equipment. Read. Inventory our medical supplies and anything that can be used as weapons. Everyone else collect anything metal or sharp. Weapons? Moss recoiled in horror. We cannot harm other living creatures. It violates every principle of civilized behavior. Those living creatures already harmed us, Dr. Reed pointed out grimly, indicating bloodstains on the damaged fence. 3 of the night shift workers are missing. Sam was already fashioning spears from broken fence posts and scattered tools. His movements were quick and sure, the muscle memory of someone who'd made emergency weapons before. You know how to create implements of violence? Trill watched in fascination and revulsion as Sam tested the balance of an improvised javelin. I know how to survive, Sam corrected. Sometimes that means fighting back. A bone-chilling roar echoed from the forest much closer than before. Something was moving through the trees with deliberate purpose, no longer bothering to hide its approach. They're coming back, Dr. Reed observed, checking the action on a flare gun she'd modified, probably testing our response to the initial probe. Testing our response? Moss's branches trembled. You speak as if these creatures think strategically. All successful predators think strategically, Sam explained, positioning himself where he could see multiple approach routes. They have to, or they starve. The first beast emerged from the tree line like a nightmare made flesh, 12 feet of muscle and claw covered in scales that reflected the morning sun. Its eyes showed a cold intelligence that made Trill whimper in terror. Movement left and right, Dr. Reed called out, tracking additional shapes in the forest. Classic pincer attack. They're trying to surround us. Sam hefted his makeshift spear, his stance shifting into something predatory and dangerous. The change in his posture was subtle but unmistakable to anyone who understood body language. Stay behind us, he told the aliens calmly. This might get messy. The lead predator charged with surprising speed, its claws extended and mouth open to reveal rows of razor-sharp teeth. Most species would have fled in panic or frozen in terror. Sam stepped forward to meet it. The spear took the creature in the shoulder, penetrating deep enough to strike bone. The beast's roar of pain and rage echoed across the camp as it stumbled sideways from the unexpected resistance. Dr. Reed's flare gun discharged directly into the face of the second attacker, the burning phosphorus causing it to retreat with howls of agony. Incredible, Moss whispered. They fight back. They actually fight back. The remaining predators circled warily, their simple minds struggling to process prey that acted like other predators. In their experience, intelligent species ran away or cowered helplessly. Sam pulled a second spear from his improvised arsenal, never taking his eyes off the beasts. Reed, how many more in the tree line? At least 4, she replied, reloading her flare gun with practiced efficiency. They're regrouping, probably trying to figure out why their ambush failed. Because we're not prey, Sam said quietly, his voice carrying a tone that made even Trill's fur stand on end. We're something they've never encountered before. The wounded predator was backing away slowly, blood from its shoulder wound leaving a clear trail. Its packmates followed, their aggressive posture replaced by cautious retreat. They're learning, Dr. Reed observed, adapting their tactics based on our response. So are we, Sam replied, already planning improvements to their defenses. That's what makes us human. As the immediate threat faded, the alien observers looked at their human companions with new eyes. The gentle, civilized beings they thought they knew had transformed into something else entirely, when faced with danger. Something that made apex predators think twice about attacking. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the council chambers as representatives filed in with unusual urgency. Chancellor Dern's scales clicked against his chair as the reptilian politician reviewed footage from Verdania for the 5th time. Each viewing made him more disturbed. General Hayes stood at the central podium, her posture straight and confident despite the tension in the room. Behind her, Dr. Nova prepared holographic displays that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. The situation on Verdania requires immediate council attention, Ambassador Flux announced, his energy form pulsing with agitation. What we observed challenges our fundamental understanding of human nature. Elder Grove's ancient branches creaked as he shifted uncomfortably. We welcome them as peaceful gardeners. The footage suggests otherwise. On the main display, security recordings showed Sam and Dr. Reed systematically hunting down the remaining predators. Their movements were coordinated and ruthless, showing none of the panic or helplessness other species displayed when faced with apex predators. Look at their eyes, Chancellor Dern hissed, pointing at the screen with a clawed finger. Forward-facing. Predator eyes designed for tracking prey. Dr. Nova stepped forward, her tablet displaying anatomical comparisons. Chancellor Dern raises an important point. Human eye placement is consistent with pursuit predators, not herbivorous species as we initially classified them. But they speak of peace and cooperation, Wren protested, his gills fluttering anxiously. Surely their cultural evolution has moved beyond primitive instincts. General Hayes smiled, and something in that expression made several council members uncomfortable. Doctor, please show them the dental analysis. The hologram shifted to display human skull structure. Dr. Nova highlighted the various tooth types with clinical precision. Incisors for cutting, canines for tearing, molars for grinding. This is the dental structure of an omnivorous species with significant carnivorous adaptations. Tearing teeth. Elder Grove whispered in horror. They possess natural weapons designed to rend flesh. Every human has them, Dr. Nova confirmed. Along with binocular vision, pattern recognition abilities, and skeletal structure optimized for endurance pursuit. Chancellor Dern stood abruptly, his tail lashing with agitation. We have been deceived. They presented themselves as gentle farmers while hiding their predatory nature. We never hid anything, General Hayes replied calmly. You simply made assumptions based on limited observation. Human civilization doesn't erase human biology. Ambassador Flux's energy field darkened with concern. The implications are staggering. If humans are natural predators, what does that mean for galactic security? Dr. Nova activated another display showing human historical records. Our research reveals patterns that support predatory classification. Humans have engaged in organized warfare for over 10,000 years. Warfare? Quill's compound eyes widened in disbelief. Deliberate violence between members of the same species? Competition for resources and territory, General Hayes explained matter-of-factly. Standard predator behavior when prey becomes scarce or populations exceed carrying capacity. The casual way she discussed violence made several representatives physically recoil. Species like the Botanari had no framework for understanding deliberate harm between intelligent beings. Show them the domestication records, Chancellor Dern demanded, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. Dr. Nova pulled up images of various Earth animals. Humans have domesticated over 40 species, including several apex predators. Dogs, cats, and even large carnivores like tigers in some cases. How does a species domesticate creatures designed to kill them? Wren asked in amazement. By being better predators, General Hayes answered simply. Humans understand pack dynamics, territorial behavior, and dominance hierarchies because we evolved with them. The revelation hit the Council like a physical blow. A species that could predict and control the behavior of other predators possessed capabilities beyond anything in their experience. They think like predators because they are predators, Chancellor Dern stated flatly. Everything else is simply camouflage. Elder Grove's bioluminescent patterns dimmed to almost nothing. We have invited apex predators into our peaceful community. What have we done? What you've done, General Hayes said firmly, is gain the most effective protectors in the galaxy. Human predatory instincts don't vanish in civilization. They evolve into something more sophisticated. Dr. Nova displayed crime statistics from human space. Despite their predatory nature, humans have remarkably low rates of violence within their own species. Their aggression is channeled into protective behaviors. Protective of what? Ambassador Flux asked warily. Their pack, General Hayes replied. And humans have a unique ability to extend pack loyalty to other species. You've seen this in action on Verdania. The security footage resumed, showing Sam and Dr. Reed carefully shielding the alien colonists from danger. Their violence was directed outward, protecting rather than threatening their companions. They fought to defend us, Moss realized with wonder. Their predatory instincts were used for protection, not predation. Exactly, Dr. Nova confirmed. Human evolution created protector-predators. They hunt threats to their extended pack, rather than hunting the pack itself. Chancellor Dern remained unconvinced. And what happens when they decide we are the threat? What defense do we have against creatures who think like apex predators? The same defense you've always had, General Hayes answered quietly. Don't give them reason to see you as a threat to their pack. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's predatory nature could be their greatest asset or their worst nightmare, depending on how the relationship developed. We need time to process this information, Elder Grove said finally. The classification of humanity as a peaceful species must be reconsidered. Of course, General Hayes agreed. But remember that predators who choose civilization are far more valuable than herbivores who have no choice. As the council session ended, representatives clustered in small groups, whispering urgently about the revelations. The comfortable assumptions of the past 3 months lay in ruins, replaced by a complex new reality. Humanity was not the gentle species they had believed. But perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed. The question now was whether the council had the wisdom to recognize the difference between capacity for violence and the choice to use it wisely. In the observation deck above the chambers, researchers continued their analysis of human behavior patterns. What they were discovering would prove even more disturbing than what had been revealed in the official session. The truth about humanity was far stranger and more complex than anyone imagined. Research Prime Helix's crystalline form pulsed with data streams as the silicon-based entity processed thousands of human historical records simultaneously. The classified facility hummed with activity as the galaxy's best minds struggled to understand their newest members. Dr. Stone sat across from Professor Link in the sterile observation room, their casual conversation being recorded by dozens of hidden sensors. The humans had no idea they were subjects in the most comprehensive behavioral study in galactic history. The Mongol campaigns are particularly interesting, Dr. Stone was saying, highlighting sections of a military history text. Genghis Khan's forces conquered more territory in 25 years than Rome managed in 400. Bioanalyst Cord's fungal networks processed the information with growing alarm. Violence on such a massive scale was incomprehensible to species that had evolved cooperative survival strategies. How many casualties? Research Prime Helix inquired, its harmonic voice carrying undertones of disbelief. Professor Link consulted her notes without apparent concern. Estimates vary, but probably 40 million deaths over the course of the expansion, though some historians argue the numbers are inflated. The casual way she discussed mass death sent ripples of shock through the monitoring systems. 40 million deaths represented more violence than most species had experienced in their entire evolutionary history. These numbers represent individuals killed by other humans. Cord's spore clouds shifted anxiously, members of the same species deliberately terminating each other. War was a common method of resource competition, Dr. Stone explained matter-of-factly. Different human groups fought for territory, breeding rights, and access to prey animals. Standard predator behavior, really. Research Prime Helix's data cores struggled to process the implications. Your species engaged in systematic elimination of competing populations. Among other things, Professor Link agreed, though we also developed cooperation strategies. Humans are unusual in that we can form alliances with competing predator groups when facing larger threats. The monitoring teams exchanged horrified communications. A species capable of both cooperation and systematic violence represented a combination they had never encountered. Show us these cooperation strategies, bioanalyst Cord requested, hoping to find evidence of humanity's better nature. Dr. Stone pulled up records of World War II, specifically focusing on the alliance between former enemies. When faced with threats to civilization itself, human tribes put aside territorial disputes to work together. This is encouraging, Research Prime Helix observed. Your species chose cooperation over competition when survival was at stake. To a point, Professor Link corrected. But notice the scale of violence required to create that cooperation. 60 million deaths before humans agreed to work together against the common threat. The researchers processed this information with growing unease. Humans apparently required catastrophic violence before abandoning competitive behaviors. Perhaps we should examine your domestication practices, Cord suggested, hoping to find evidence of gentler human traits. Professor Link brightened considerably. Oh, that's fascinating stuff. Humans have been modifying other species for over 15,000 years. She displayed images of wolves being gradually transformed into dogs through selective breeding. We took apex predators and reshaped them to serve human needs. How did early humans survive the process? Research Prime Helix asked. Surely many were killed by the predators they attempted to domesticate. Probably, Dr. Stone agreed cheerfully. But humans are persistent. We kept trying until we figured out how predator psychology works. Predator psychology? Cord's networks pulsed with confusion. Pack dynamics, dominance behaviors, territorial instincts, Professor Link explained. To control predators, you have to think like one. Humans are naturally good at reading behavioral patterns. The implications were staggering. Humans could predict and manipulate the behavior of apex predators because they understood predatory thinking from the inside. What about your relationship with non-predatory species? Research Prime Helix inquired hopefully. Dr. Stone displayed records of livestock management. We domesticated prey animals too. Cattle, sheep, pigs. Though the process was different since we were establishing ourselves as their primary predator. Primary predator? Cord recoiled in horror. You maintained other species specifically to hunt them? To eat them, Professor Link clarified. Much more efficient than hunting wild animals. We could control breeding, diet, and population size to optimize protein production. The casual discussion of systematic predation on domesticated species sent shockwaves through the monitoring systems. No known civilization had ever developed such comprehensive predatory management. Your species created artificial ecosystems with humans as the apex predator. Research Prime Helix stated in amazement. Pretty much, Dr. Stone agreed, though we also learned to preserve wild ecosystems. Humans figured out that maintaining biodiversity was better for long-term survival. You preserved competing predators? Cord asked in confusion. National parks, wildlife preserves, conservation programs, Professor Link listed. Humans realized that eliminating other predators destabilized entire ecosystems. This revelation was even more disturbing than the evidence of human violence. A species intelligent enough to preserve their competition while maintaining dominance over them represented a level of strategic thinking that bordered on the terrifying. So humans simultaneously domesticate, eliminate, and preserve other species based on strategic considerations? Research Prime Helix summarized. Basically, yes, Dr. Stone confirmed. We adapt our approach based on what serves human interests best. The research teams fell silent as they processed the full implications. Humanity was not simply a predatory species. They were strategic apex predators capable of reshaping entire biospheres to serve their needs. There is one more thing we must examine, Cord said reluctantly. Your recreational activities. Professor Link pulled up footage of various human sports. Athletics are important for maintaining physical fitness and social bonding. The monitors displayed humans engaged in boxing, wrestling, martial arts, and team sports that involved complex tactical thinking and physical confrontation. You engage in ritualized combat for entertainment. Research Prime Helix asked in disbelief. Combat training disguised as recreation, Dr. Stone corrected. Most human sports derive from military or hunting skills. And other humans watch these combat displays for pleasure? Cord's spores reflected confusion and horror. Millions of them, Professor Link confirmed. Some of our largest social gatherings center around watching humans compete in stylized warfare. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place for the monitoring teams. Humans maintained their predatory skills through recreational violence, ensuring that every generation remained capable of organized combat. We have seen enough, Research Prime Helix announced. The data pattern is clear. Bioanalyst Cord's networks pulsed with resignation. Humans are not simply predators. They are the most sophisticated predatory species in galactic history. As the research session ended, the monitoring teams began preparing their report for the Council. What they had discovered would change everything about humanity's place in galactic civilization. The question was no longer whether humans were dangerous. The question was whether the galaxy could survive having such perfect predators as neighbors. But perhaps, if the Council was very careful and very wise, they could ensure that human predatory instincts remained focused on protecting civilization rather than conquering it. The fate of the galaxy might depend on making humans feel like the galactic community was their pack to protect. The asteroid research station felt cold and sterile as Commander Ford examined his prison cell. The council had been polite about it, calling it a survival assessment facility, but he recognized a cage when he saw one. Thick, transparent walls, controlled atmosphere, and enough space to move around without actually going anywhere. Dr. Cole watched from the observation deck as her colleague methodically examined every inch of his environment. Her job was to monitor Ford's psychological state during what the council believed would be a 72-hour test of human adaptability. Subject appears calm, she reported to observer Prime Lens, whose multiple eyes tracked Ford's movements with mechanical precision. No signs of panic or claustrophobia. Security Chief Node's robotic sensors registered Ford's elevated heart rate and increased awareness, but nothing approaching distress. Biological indicators suggest heightened alertness rather than fear response. Counselor Branch swayed nervously, his root system detecting vibrations through the station's hull. The Bodanari representative was deeply uncomfortable with the entire concept of imprisoning another sentient being, even for scientific purposes. This evaluation seems unnecessarily harsh, Branch observed. Surely we could assess human capabilities through voluntary cooperation. Previous assessments proved inadequate, observer Prime Lens replied, adjusting his visual spectrum to better analyze Ford's behavior. Direct observation of survival instincts requires genuine environmental pressure. Inside the test chamber, Ford completed his initial survey and began what appeared to be random movement around the space. Dr. Cole recognized the pattern immediately from her study of human military tactics. He's not wandering aimlessly, she explained to the observers. Commander Ford is testing the structural integrity of his containment. Those seemingly casual touches are checking for weak points. Security Chief Node focused additional sensors on Ford's activities. Explain the tactical significance of this behavior. Humans automatically look for escape routes in any confined space, Dr. Cole replied. It's an involuntary response developed over millions of years of avoiding larger predators. Within the first hour, Ford had identified 3 potential vulnerabilities in the chamber design. The ventilation system could be accessed through ceiling panels, the waste disposal unit connected to maintenance corridors, and the transparent walls showed stress patterns that suggested focused impact might create fractures. Remarkable, observer Prime Lens noted. The subject identified security weaknesses that our engineers missed during construction. More concerning, Security Chief Node added, is that he accomplished this analysis while appearing to engage in casual exploration. Dr. Cole nodded grimly. Humans are naturally deceptive when assessing threats. Commander Ford never let on that he was conducting escape planning. By the second day, Ford had begun what the observers initially mistook for meaningless activity. He collected small debris, arranged objects in specific patterns, and spent time near the food dispensary examining its mechanical operation. Subject behavior has become increasingly erratic, observer Prime Lens reported. Purpose of current activities unclear. Dr. Cole studied Ford's actions more carefully and felt a chill of recognition. He's not being erratic. Commander Ford is making tools? Counselor Branch asked in confusion. From what materials? Anything available, Dr. Cole replied, highlighting Ford's improvised implements on her scanner. That piece of metal is now a prying device. Those plastic fragments have been shaped into cutting edges. He's turning environmental debris into a complete toolkit. Security Chief Node's threat assessment systems activated as Ford continued his seemingly innocent activities. How did human evolution develop such comprehensive tool-making instincts? Necessity, Dr. Cole explained. Early humans survived by adapting available materials to solve immediate problems. Every human carries the genetic memory of those skills. On the third day, the test took an unexpected turn. The Council had introduced several alien creatures to the chamber, expecting Ford to avoid or flee from the obviously dangerous predatory animals. Instead, something unprecedented happened. Ford began domesticating them. This cannot be possible, observer Prime Lens declared, watching Ford offer food to a creature designed to be an apex predator. The subject should be fleeing or defending himself. Look at his posture, Dr. Cole observed with growing amazement. Commander Ford is establishing pack dominance. He's making himself the alpha predator in that environment. The alien creatures, confused by Ford's confident behavior, began responding to his leadership. Within hours, they were following his commands and accepting his authority over their shared territory. "How is this possible?" Counselor Branch whispered in awe. "Those creatures were specifically chosen for their aggressive, untamable nature." "Humans understand predator psychology better than the predators themselves," Dr. Cole replied. "We've been managing apex predators for thousands of years." Security Chief Node Systems registered increasing concern as Ford's influence over the test environment expanded. "The subject has effectively gained control of assets intended to contain him." Worse than that, Dr. Cole realized. He's turning the test facility into a base of operations. Ford had arranged his tools, domesticated creatures, and improvised shelter into a functioning survival complex. What was supposed to be a harsh prison had become a thriving micro-civilization under human management. "The 72-hour test limit is meaningless," Observer Prime Lens stated flatly. "The subject could survive indefinitely under these conditions." "Longer than that," Dr. Cole corrected grimly. "Commander Ford is preparing for expansion." The observation that sent panic through the monitoring systems. Ford was not simply surviving the test environment. He was preparing to break out of it. "Immediate containment protocols," Security Chief Node declared, activating emergency systems throughout the facility. "Wait," Dr. Cole called out, studying Ford's latest activities. "Look what he's doing now." Ford had approached the transparent wall nearest the observation deck and was making gestures toward the monitoring team. His movements were careful and deliberately non-threatening. "He wants to communicate," Counselor Branch realized with relief. "Perhaps he seeks cooperation rather than conquest." Dr. Cole activated the communication system, and Ford's voice filled the observation chamber with calm authority. "I know you're watching," he said simply, "and I know this is a test. But you should understand something important about humans." The monitoring team listened with rapt attention as Ford continued. "We don't just survive in hostile environments. We improve them. Give us a challenge and we'll turn it into an opportunity." Observer Prime Lens adjusted his visual sensors to better study Ford's expression. "What opportunity do you perceive in this situation?" Ford gestured toward his domesticated predators and improvised civilization. "You wanted to test human adaptability. But what you've actually demonstrated is human leadership. We don't just survive threats, we turn them into allies." The implications hit the monitoring team like a physical blow. The test had not revealed human weakness or limitation. It had demonstrated capabilities that exceeded their worst fears and best hopes simultaneously. "The evaluation is complete," Security Chief Node announced. "Human adaptability exceeds all projected parameters." As Ford was released from the test chamber, the observers realized they had learned something far more important than human survival skills. They had discovered that humans did not simply endure challenges, they transformed them into advantages. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for a species that could turn any situation to their benefit. The Grand Council chambers had never hosted a session quite like this one. President Chen stood at the central podium, her presence somehow commanding despite her small stature compared to the massive beings surrounding her. Admiral Ross waited in the wings, his dress uniform gleaming under the chamber's lights. Prime Counselor, Echo's ancient energy form pulsed with millennia of accumulated wisdom as the being who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations prepared to address the human question once and for all. "We have studied your species extensively," Echo intoned, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated through every translator in the chamber. "The results have challenged our fundamental understanding of intelligence and civilization." War Marshal Crest leaned forward, his scarred features showing the kind of respect that one warrior gave to another. The Krellian Empire had been the closest thing to a military power in the galaxy, but even they had never encountered anything like humanity. "Your people fight like legends," Crest rumbled approvingly. "But we must understand the implications for galactic peace." President Chen nodded calmly. Marshal Crest raises valid concerns. Humanity's military capabilities are significant, but they serve a specific purpose. "And what purpose is that?" Chancellor Dern interjected, his reptilian features still showing the fear and suspicion that had dominated the previous sessions. "Protection," Admiral Ross answered simply, stepping forward to join President Chen. "Human military doctrine is fundamentally defensive in nature." Elder Grove's ancient branches rustled with confusion. How can predatory capabilities serve defensive purposes? This seems contradictory. President Chen activated a holographic display showing human military deployments throughout their space. Admiral Ross, please explain our force positioning. Every human military unit is positioned to protect civilian populations or trade routes, Ross explained, highlighting the defensive patterns. We don't maintain conquest forces or expansion fleets. But your capabilities clearly exceed defensive requirements, Observer Prime Lens pointed out, his multiple eyes analyzing the display data. Because defense requires overwhelming superiority, President Chen replied. Humans learned long ago that the best way to avoid conflict is to make aggression too costly for potential enemies. Prime Counselor Echo's energy pattern shifted to reflect deep consideration. You maintain predatory capabilities to discourage predatory behavior in others. Exactly, Admiral Ross confirmed. Human military philosophy is based on deterrence through strength rather than conquest through violence. Research Prime Helix materialized in the chamber, his crystalline form still processing the implications of the human studies. Our analysis suggests something even more significant. Please elaborate, Echo requested. Humans have evolved beyond simple predator-prey relationships, Helix explained. They have developed pack-bonding instincts that extend to other species. Bioanalyst Cord's fungal networks pulsed with agreement. The data supports this conclusion. Human protective behavior extends to any entity they classify as part of their social group. Which means, Chancellor Dern asked suspiciously. President Chen smiled, and for the first time, the expression conveyed warmth rather than predatory confidence. It means that humans instinctively protect the things they care about. And we've come to care about this galactic community. The Verdania incident supports this interpretation, Elder Grove observed thoughtfully. Human violence was directed outward, protecting their alien companions rather than threatening them. War Marshal Crest studied the tactical displays with professional interest. Your defensive positions would also protect Council space from external threats. That's the idea, Admiral Ross agreed. Human space forms a buffer zone between the galactic core and several aggressive species we've identified on the rim. The revelation sent ripples of shock through the assembly. Humanity had quietly positioned itself as a shield between civilization and the unknown dangers of unexplored space. You have been protecting us without our knowledge? Ren asked in amazement. Without your permission, President Chen corrected gently. Humans don't ask permission to protect their pack. We just do it. Prime Counselor Echo's ancient wisdom finally grasped the full implications. You have given us a gift we did not know we needed. More than that, Bioanalyst Cord added. They have given us something we could never have achieved ourselves. The ability to sleep safely, Elder Grove realized with wonder. For the first time in galactic history, civilized species have protectors who are more dangerous than the threats they face. Chancellor Dern remained skeptical. And what guarantee do we have that you will continue to protect rather than conquer? President Chen's expression grew serious. The same guarantee you've always had, Chancellor. As long as you remain part of our pack, we will protect you with everything we have. And if we betray that trust, Dern pressed, then you discover what it means to be prey to the galaxy's apex predators, Admiral Ross answered quietly. But we're confident that won't be necessary. The chamber fell silent as the full weight of humanity's nature settled over the assembled representatives. They were protected by beings who could destroy them, but chose instead to preserve and defend them. I call for a formal vote, Prime Counselor Echo announced. All in favor of granting humanity full council membership with peacekeeping authority. The vote was unanimous, even Chancellor Dern eventually raising his scaled hand in agreement. As the session concluded, alarms suddenly blazed throughout the station. Security Chief Node's voice echoed through the chambers with mechanical urgency. Council alert. Unknown hostile vessels approaching the station. Multiple Dreadnought-class ships requesting immediate surrender. The representatives looked around in panic as War Marshal Crest pulled up tactical displays showing the approaching threat. The unknown ships dwarfed anything in the Council's defensive fleet. Estimated time to weapons range? Prime Counselor Echo inquired with remarkable calm. 17 minutes, Node replied. Council defensive forces are insufficient to repel this level of threat. A new voice cut through the chaos as Admiral Ross activated his communication system. This is Admiral Ross to all human fleet elements. Code Red defense protocols are now in effect. Protect the Council. The tactical display suddenly filled with new contacts as human warships materialized throughout the system. Ships that had been hidden or disguised revealed themselves as a defensive fleet that dwarfed even the approaching threat. How many ships? War Marshal Crest asked in awe. Enough, Admiral Ross replied simply. Human doctrine requires overwhelming superiority for the protection of Allied assets. The unknown attackers found themselves facing not the defenseless Council station they expected, but the entire human battle fleet positioned in perfect defensive formation. Unknown vessels, Admiral Ross broadcast on open channels. You are threatening a human protectorate. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The attacking fleet, faced with opposition they had never anticipated, chose the better part of valor and retreated to hyperspace. As calm returned to the station, Elder Grove spoke for the entire Council. I believe we have made the right choice. Welcome to full membership, humanity. President Chen nodded gravely. Thank you for trusting us with your protection. We won't let you down. Prime Counselor Echo's energy form pulsed with satisfaction. The galaxy is safer today than it was yesterday. May this partnership endure for the ages. In the weeks that followed, human peacekeeping forces were deployed throughout Council space. For the first time in galactic history, civilized worlds could focus on growth and development without fear of external threats. The predators had become protectors, and the galaxy was better for it.